My name is Jamie Brand with 360 Yield Center. A lot of questions about 360 chain roll. 360 chain roll was introduced last fall. Basically, we're running into year number 2. This will be the second season that we're seeing it in the field. Made a few adjustments to it, but for the most part, we had a great fall last fall, and we look forward to being on a lot more corn heads this fall. So the one thing that is really important to us as a nitrogen company is the value of residue. Also, the perfect planter pass is incredibly important to basically establish that crop. So when we look at sizing the residue, number one, we want to size it in manageable pieces for the row cleaners to be able to move it. Secondly, we want to get those nutrients out there as quickly as we can. So basically what our goal here with 360 is basically to take a corn stalk, and instead of taking roughly 5 years to decompose that, get that in the soil, be able to get that back up into the plant, we're trying to cut that down into 2.5 years. But what we did not want to do is cut things into small pieces. When we cut things into small pieces, they blow away. We can't manage them with the planter pass. So what we've done, the name chain roll, is really chaining the residue. We're cutting it into 4 to 5 inch chunks, 6 inch chunks, 7 inch chunks, but it looks like a log chain. About every 1.5 inches, every 1.25 inches. The crimpers go through and basically serrate all the way through the first rind, through the pith, all the way to the second rind, and then stop. The reason we stop is because we want to hold those pieces together to be able to manage them with the row cleaner and to keep the weight there so that we keep that residue exactly where the combine put it. As we continue to look at higher yields, newer hybrids that we want to keep intact later, plant health is a big issue. And in many cases, we're planting more plants. We're keeping them intact and healthy later in the season. We're running the corn head through them even now today when some of these corn stalks are green because we promoted plant health. Now we have to manage that residue. So when the combine pass goes across, we're looking at anywhere between 9,000 and 13,000 pounds of residue. And in that residue, we're getting over 100 pounds of nitrogen and 100 pounds of potassium. And we want to make sure that we're getting that turned and back into the soil as quickly as it can as we continue to compound more yield, more residue, and just being able to continue to raise big crops. So if you look to my left, this field we ran a opposed roll versus a 360 chain roll. And this is the opposed roll. And if you can look down here, I took my rake and I basically just raked things up. And I just basically brought up what we have here. So we're seeing longer pieces. We can see the thumb printing right here of where the opposed roll came down and basically came together, turned it out just basically to get the ear down. But most of these are really kept intact. Again, we can see that thumb print. If you look to my right, this is the 360 chain roll. So as we look at this residue here, we certainly are a lot darker. We've got a lot more microbial activity. As we look into the pith, we're black and we're consistently moving along much more quickly than if we weren't be able to get into that rind. So that's really the advantage of the 360 chain roll. Also, a lot of people are minimizing or eliminating a tillage pass because the combine is doing that for them. Also, when you think of your combine, now it can be a sizing tool, and also it's a variable rate nutrient tool coming out of the back. That residue is very valuable, and we want it to land exactly evenly behind that combine to basically decompose to get back into that soil profile. So what we're seeing in the industry is we had a lot of this, where we saw these larger stalks, and so we decided that we would swing the pendulum over and we would do a chopping corn head, or we would do a roll that would make things into very small pieces. And what we saw with that is, yes, we enhanced microbial activity, but what we did is we hindered the planter pass because we weren't able to move those small pieces. Also, we would see that residue being blown across fields, blown into ditches. And a lot of people don't look at the value of residue. It is huge. When we look at uptake into a corn plant, we always talk about what the grain removes. But there's a significant amount of nutrients to build that plant that is left in the field after the combine pass. So the one thing that I want to show you here is the 360 chain roll. So every revolution, which is about 14 inches, we've got one cutter, we've got two cutters, we've got 6 crimping tools, crimping that go around. And so basically we're cutting, we're crimping all the way through to the other rind as we turn, and then we're cutting, and we're crimping, cutting. So this is a great tool. As you guys look at options for the fall, how can you make that harvest pass be as efficient as you can to help turn that residue into things that can help you the following year? And 360 chain roll is a great option. Thank you very much.